In June of 2020, StriveTogether convened with Opportunity Fund partnerships. There were 4 main sessions: racial equity, systems level change, sustainability planning, and systems level indicators. This video reviews key learnings that were gathered.
The racial equity session was about identifying and taking action on disparities during the pandemic. Many partnerships are already engaging in community authority work and shared how they are moving progress. They are doing this by shifting away from a white-dominated, power-heavy perspective, engaging equity fellows already in K-12 schools, and connecting to partners outside of education within the community, like barbershops and community centers. Northfield Promise is a good example of working creatively with families to improve student outcomes. They strengthen their connections with traditionally marginalized Somali and Spanish-speaking communities by recruiting and training young people of color to serve on local nonprofit boards. Currently, over 90 youth are serving as voting board members of over 20 local nonprofits.
What's possible in your area? Think about who's not at the table in your community and make a plan to get their voices heard. The community engagement spectrum and the results at the center chart are great tools to help you get started. Both can be found on the portal.
Systems-level strategies require that systems are transformed by scaling practices that center racial and ethnic equity. To achieve systems-level change, there were 3 consistent methods identified: successfully pushing forward equitable policy, establishing cross-sector partnerships, like in housing or healthcare, and shifting system-level practices. A key example of this is the Texas-based Cradle to Career partnerships. Commit Partnership of Dallas, E3 Alliance of Austin, and Up Partnership of San Antonio. They created a broad statewide coalition with cross-sector stakeholders and other Texas-based Cradle to Career partnerships to advocate for a landmark school finance bill. HB 3 was passed in the summer of 2019 to support equitable funding for all Texas learners by investing as much as $6.5 billion in education.
Now you try. Check out StriveTogether's policy checklist, leverage points document, and systems iceberg worksheet on the portal to learn how to get started shaping policy in your community.
In sustainability planning, partnerships explore topics around organizational stability from both the developmental and operational perspective. They engage in several topics: building national and corporate funding partnerships, shifting power and leadership structures, embarking on anti-racist strategic planning, and making a case for this work in light of COVID-19. Higher Expectations is working with local employers in identifying skill needs of the industries. They have strengthened their corporate partnership with a local healthcare provider by intentionally partnering to identify the skills gap and then using their Opportunity Fund's investment in partnership with Goodwill to upskill single mothers working in the industry.
Check out the revenue generation and operations tool libraries on the portal, as well as the newly created National Case for Support tool. If you prefer to learn from others, get involved in the portal Operations Learning Group. Lastly, you can browse through the COVID-19 resource page for examples of how partnerships are sustaining themselves during the current crisis.
In systems-level indicators, participants engaged in discussing how the network can strengthen its data use to systemically advance racial equity. Partnerships discussed how our current focus on outcomes data alone perpetuates deficit thinking and the necessity of understanding data related to how institutions, systems, and structures contribute to disparities. Many partnerships seeing systems-level shifts are using data around culture and leadership as well as inequities and access to opportunities. When data is not available, they work creatively to find alternatives such as anecdotal evidence, like personal accounts. E3 Alliance is one example of leveraging data to track system-level indicators. They mapped all the schools with similar demographics and resources by their outcomes for students of color and those living in poverty, and shared that data with superintendents. Seeing how similar districts and schools were seeing better outcomes for the groups of students their schools were struggling to support, superintendents were able to look at systems issues and shift practices.
How could you think this way? For ideas on indicators to track to measure systems progress, see the draft systems level framework on the portal. Thank you for watching. To see more, check out the full notes on the portal.